morning, it's Dave Henderson, and this is brocknews.ca City View, and this is the month of, March, end of March. So we're going into spring. Sometimes time flies and you just don't get a good hold on what day it is. Anyways, big topics of the time. City Council is moving along. We got the external service delivery review, but here's a subject I'm going to touch on today, and I touched on it a little bit in my closing remarks of our council meeting last night, and I'm sure that it's going to generate some discussion out there. I've seen on the blogs it already is. It's the question of economic development and regional cooperation and the big question of amalgamation. Put it out there right at the top. It's not going to happen, but I think it's worth having discussions on these things. One of the problems in local politics is that you don't generate good discussion sometimes on big issues. And when you don't generate discussion, it's sometimes hard to innovate or move or change at all or bring ideas to the front and have people move them around, kick them around a little bit, and see what good things are there. And amalgamation is one of them. And what's amalgamation, you might ask? Well, back in 2000, the government at the time really pushed a lot of local municipalities to team up with their neighbors to form larger municipalities to get some economy of scale, and so they could provide better services at more efficiently. Now, they've pushed it a lot of them happened. I think the province went from something like 800 municipalities down to 400. Don't quote me on the number, but we're around 400 right now. And locally, there were a number of amalgamations. Elizabethtown amalgamated with Kittley, Edwardsburg amalgamated with Spencerville area, Edwardsburg Cardinal. The North Grenville areas amalgamated a couple of townships. Rideau Lakes amalgamated a couple of townships. So most of the area amalgamated in small ways, but we didn't amalgamate in a big way. One of the challenges along the waterfront, for example, is that Cornwall amalgamated, Kingston amalgamated with its townships, Belleville amalgamated with the surrounding townships, Quinte West, Trenton, City of Trenton amalgamated with the townships to form Quinte West. What we're seeing today is that those larger amalgamations that amalgamated an urban core with some rural areas are growing. They are getting jobs. They are growing. Yes, there is a lot of challenges with amalgamating. Some areas saw higher taxes. Most areas saw equivalent services across all areas, which is why you got higher taxes. There are lots of people out there that don't like the amalgamations, don't think they worked, didn't like them. But at the end of the day, the data that's coming out now from multiple sources is saying larger urban areas are growing. They're getting immigration, both internal immigrants from Canada and from elsewhere. They're getting jobs. They're investing in services. They're getting a concentration and a scale of services that attracts companies, attracts jobs, attracts people. Smaller urban and smaller rural are not growing unless they're right up next to a big urban area like Ottawa. North Grenville grows because they're a suburb of Ottawa. In this immediate area, Brockville was highlighted again in the Money Sense magazine, Places to Live. And no, they don't capture the sense of feeling or history of a community, which we all feel very strongly about here. And they do keep adding cities by breaking down the large urban areas like Toronto. So they keep pushing us down when essentially you're just expanding the numbers. So that's not a big thing there. But we do move down on areas of growth and areas of income. What they are actually measuring is the census metropolitan area. The census metropolitan area from StatsCan for Brockville is Brockville, Augusta, Elizabethtown, and Front of Yonge. It's 43,000 people, 41,000 people. So we're twice the size of the actual urban Brockville. That's what they're measuring. And they measure that because that's the service area of the urban core. That's the Brockville service area. That is the municipal area of Brockville. We should have amalgamated back in 2000 in that area. And if we did, we would have been investing in a broader range. We would have been attracting more people and arguably getting more growth. When the StatsCan census figures came out, Brockville was down 0.5% over 5 years. That surprised us. What was more surprising was Elizabethtown. was down 5%. Augusta was down 1.5%. Augusta has Maitland, which is, there's houses being built. Elizabethtown, it seems like there's houses being built. We build approximately 60 houses a year in Brockville. So over 5 years, that's a lot of houses. And yet our population went down slightly. People are spreading out. There's fewer people living in each house. But what the real end result of where the data is showing is that this one service area, for example, if it was one legislative area, the investments, the decisions, the structures, we would have a far better chance of growing. And it will happen someday, but as I said at the start, not in my lifetime, because there are too many entrenched interests. There's too much history. Every local councillor, and our town, our city included, has self-interest. You're elected for self-interest. You're elected for the people in your area that voted for you. That's self-interest. So you will not make the bigger decisions. You know, we will not, City of Brockville generally will not invest city money in a large industrial park outside of the city, because that's taxpayer money going outside. It might happen, we're working on it, but it might happen, but not likely. It's harder to happen. Same as Elizabethtown is less likely to invest in something in Brockville. It does happen, has happened in the past. The pool is a good example, but it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So the challenges are big, but the direction the data is pushing us is that makes sense. So my challenge to people out in the community is have that discussion. Ask what it means. And it's too bad, but the discussion often boils down to, and I saw it on the blogs this morning, into innuendo and I guess you'd call it ill-informed commentary of things like, oh, that community is a basket case economically, or this community doesn't have any taxes. Well, there's not that much difference in how these communities are run or administered. The legislation is similar. We make similar choices as to reserves and funding and accounts. There's not that much difference, and we all have similar challenges, period. You know, I think if you ask anybody in the city of Brockville, we'll tell you how we have reserves, we have good accounting, we have good planning, we have long-term planning. Somebody in one of the townships will have a different view. And unless you sat at the table and actually asked each other what you're talking about, which we do, surprisingly, the public sometimes doesn't realize that. And anyways, that's part of the discussion. So I challenge people, have that discussion. Ask yourself or your neighbor or your counselors, could we be doing this a little bit better? And I think we can. So I throw that out there and let's have some discussion. I think maybe this is a good forum to try and initiate some discussions on bigger issues and have public discussion. Let's see where we can move to. We always got to keep rethinking what we do and try to get better. Anyways, this is David Henderson, Mayor of the City of Brockville, and City View on brocknews.ca, and I'll see you next month. Bye-bye.